How much does size matter and what women really notice about a man? I made this video for you to help you attract more women without saying a word through fitness, fashion, and finesse. Today's video is all about how women can tell if you are well endowed without seeing the goods and whether or not it even matters. Your fitness level, the way you dress and carry yourself can, make a woman assume things about you. And that's exactly what we want in many cases. That the way you move, your slow, deliberate movements, solid eye contact, and composure communicate quiet power. Those subtle nonverbal cues that can spark female initiation. She'll start a conversation with you because of your energy. Your energy speaks first. I'll tell you why I'm talking with you about this. I'm just going to catch you up on my little weekend escapades. So this last Sunday, I went downtown to one of the cities that I normally visit here in Central Florida. And I pulled up on the motorcycle. And what I did was I parked at one bar, walked down to check out another bar. And then when I came back to the first bar where I parked at, what I did was I walked through the door. And as soon as I walked through the door, there was two beautiful women sitting there at the bar that I noticed right off the bat. And as I'm walking through the door, they're to my left, and they're sitting at the bar, and I'm walking behind them because I see that there's a seat that is a little bit further down past them. So what I ended up doing is I was walking by, I was checking out the one that I was going to be sitting closest to, and the other one says to me, "Hey, do you ride a motorcycle?" Here, she initiates the conversation with me. And I said, yeah. How'd you know? She's like, the jacket. And I said, oh, yeah. And she's like, well, also the motorcycle. We saw that when we walked in. And I said, yo, that's my baby girl. That's Starfire. She said, Starfire, you named your motorcycle? And I was like, yeah, that's Starfire Black. Of course I named my motorcycle. So that's how the conversation began. And I mean, we sat there and talked probably for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And that conversation kept getting deeper and deeper. They were really engaging, really open and honest in their conversation. And, part of what I look to do when I'm having these conversations with women is to make sure that they think of me in a sexual way. I want them to think of me, even if they're not thinking of us having sex, they're thinking of me as more than just a guy, the two women talking or just friends talking. So, I don't remember exactly how we got into this conversation, but I think we started talking about like facial hair and then body hair. Then they started talking about how they had done the waxing. They had seen each other's goods. The one girl was talking about, oh, hers is so fat and juicy, but mine is small and tight. They were kind of saying how they would rather have each other's private parts, so that's how like quickly we sort of got into this sort of talking about sex parts and stuff like that. And one of the things that I asked, I said, I've been curious, obviously it's very easy for men to figure out, well, how attractive is a woman physically, because women make it really easy for us. They wear clothes that are revealing and close fitting, so it's easy for us to tell. But for the most part, unless you're at the beach, women don't really get a good look at a guy's stuff just based on what we wear. So I asked, well, I don't know because I'm not looking, but how can you tell if a guy's well endowed? And, they sat there and thought about it for a while. And one of them spoke up and she says, it's not even a physical thing. She said, it's really that they're not trying to prove their masculinity. I said, huh. So wait, so you're saying you're not looking for a bulge or the size of their hands, size of their feet? She's like, no, that's not really something that tells me whether or not a guy's packing. And I said, well, what is it exactly about, them not proving their masculinity? How does that manifest itself? She says, well, it's just a confidence, a courage to even come talk to them, and a calmness about the way in which they carry themselves. And I said, wait, are you describing big dick energy? And she said, yeah, we laughed. All of us talked about it there for a second. But, essentially, she was not only talking about how, confident and courageous a guy has to be to come over and initiate a conversation, but also the nonverbal communication that he exudes without saying a word, right? The calmness that she was talking about, the confidence. Really, essentially, one of the things she said was for him not to be arrogant, and arrogance can come across in a nonverbal way as well. But all in all, as she started to continue to describe what was an indicator of whether or not a guy was well endowed, a lot of it came down to his fitness, his fashion, and his finesse. So that's why I wanted to make sure I spoke with you guys about this, because I was really blown away by the fact that she didn't describe something physical. She talked about, the way in which he carried himself and the confidence therein. So I went on to go ahead and ask another woman later on that night. I kind of alluded to the conversation that I had with the other two women earlier, and she agreed as well. She says, yeah, you know what? That's kind of true. Now, maybe I led her in a little bit because I described to her what the conversation was about, but she didn't deny or contradict that. She said, yeah, that seems about right. And oh, by the way, when I was talking with those two women at first, one of the things I asked is like, well, how much does it even matter as to whether or not he is well endowed? And they both agreed it didn't really matter that much to them. The one who was shorter, more petite, said, I don't even like a guy with a big dick, to be honest with you, is what she said. I just thought that was interesting as well. But they both were very interested in that quiet, courageous confidence, that calmness that the guy could demonstrate. Now, I want to just go ahead and tell you guys to check out that leather motorcycle jacket that got one of them to ask me if I rode a motorcycle. She initiated the conversation based on my jacket, so I think it's worth checking out in the description below. And I also asked them, do you think you're biased? Do you think that you might think of a guy as being well endowed because you like his personality? And honestly, of those two women, they couldn't decide whether or not, he was giving off big dick energy or he actually had a big dick. They weren't really 100% sure. Their answer was not confident. But what they were confident about, again, I want to emphasize, is the courageousness and the confidence without being arrogant. So let's recap here for a moment, guys. I did have this conversation with these women. They did tell me that where they can find this well endowed, this big dick energy, is when a guy is not trying to prove his masculinity, when he's confident and calm, when he has that nonverbal communication through his fitness, fashion, and finesse. And one more time, check out the leather motorcycle jacket in the link in the description below so you can see maybe this fits your style too. Now, if you want to attract more women without saying a word, then hit subscribe right now. I need your help with a couple of things. I need to know, what's your biggest struggle when it comes to having a conversation with a woman who you want to date? Is it fear of rejection? Is it that you don't know how to begin the conversation? Is it that you don't know where to go to find women? Let me know in the comments below. Lastly, I need your help to get to 50 subscribers so I can go live from my mobile phone to bring you higher quality and more dynamic videos from anywhere. Remember, I'm here to show you how to attract women without saying a word through fitness, fashion, and finesse. Don't chase attention, attract it.